Hey, as someone who has preached on a weekly basis and for over 18 years, there were times when I definitely felt unhappy, unfulfilled, or insecure about my preaching. And I've also spent a significant amount of time in conversation with preachers, encouraging them the day after that they've preached, trying to assure that it's not as bad as they feel. But why does this happen? From my experience, it often boils down to 5 core reasons. Number 1, hey, you may just be tired. Before you get too down on yourself, realize that it really could be as simple as this. Preaching is an output physically, mentally, and spiritually. And depending on your experience, your recovery process, or the topic that you covered, your body may release hormones like adrenaline in response to the natural stress of public speaking without you even noticing. This can leave you feeling spent after the adrenaline rush subsides. Also, the cognitive load of preaching is significant. You're not just recalling your notes, you're actively engaging with your audience, trying to gauge their reactions, and adjusting your delivery sometimes on the fly, and trying to ensure that your message is both coherent and impactful. Bearing the responsibility of conveying God's message faithfully is a big deal. And this transference, if not coupled with adequate spiritual preparation and recovery, can leave you feeling empty or disconnected post-preaching. Hey, before we move on, do you want to get more mileage out of your weekly sermon? Use the link in my description to sign up for my free content stacking strategy for churches of any size. Okay, the second reason why you may be feeling unhappy after you've preached is you're too worried about what people thought. Now, I get it. It's natural to care about what people think, especially when you're in a position of leadership or influence. But when this concern starts dominating your thoughts, it can overshadow the true essence of your message and your intent behind delivering it. And I know you know what I mean. Replaying moments in your mind, scrutinizing every little detail, overthinking what someone may have said afterwards, or wondering if a specific comment or remark landed well. Now, I'm all for some introspection and believe it's healthy to a point, but obsessing over it is unnecessary and exhausting. Not to mention, we live in the reality of the digital age, constantly checking your phone to see if people are commenting or engaging on the recent post featuring your sermon clip. Your security cannot adequately come from these places. And I've done the same thing, but it's not healthy. You can do the same thing, just do it at a different time. Designate some time the following week to review your message. Consider areas you can improve. Get feedback, but stop drowning yourself in a pool of what others may or may not be thinking. The third reason is you're being too hard on yourself. You know, in my years of preaching, there were moments where I definitely felt like I could have done better. I may have fumbled over my words, or an illustration didn't land well, or people didn't respond the way that I had hoped or envisioned. I bet this sounds familiar because we've all been there. And this is because you're passionate and you care deeply about your calling and the message that you're sharing. But here's the thing, perfection is not the goal. Faithfulness is. You're not just a preacher or communicator. You're a human. When you focus excessively on this, you're robbing yourself of the joy and satisfaction that comes from serving and leading. It's not about delivering a flawless sermon. It's about being a vessel through which God speaks. Each time you get to share God's word, you're showcasing the grace of a perfect God working through an imperfect being. Hey, I want to encourage you to embrace the humanness of this process. The fourth reason you may be unhappy or down after preaching is you tried to be someone that you're not. If you're new to preaching or insecure in it, you may be tempted to imitate one of your favorite preachers or teachers. And I think everyone more than likely feels this pull from time to time. I think it's normal. And while it's helpful to learn from gifted communicators, remember that God has uniquely gifted you for where you are and to preach the messages that He puts in your heart. When you try to mirror someone else, You might end up straying from the authenticity that can make your ministry impactful. Trust in the uniqueness and individuality that God has instilled and created within you. He has called you for a reason. You don't need to copy the style of famous preachers or feel pressured to come across as profound. Instead, let your personality shine through. Your unique experiences and perspectives are valuable, and sharing them can help make your sermon more relatable and impactful. And the fifth reason is you realize you did not honor the opportunity. Maybe your sermon actually really wasn't that great. Maybe you didn't spend time in prayer as thoroughly as you could have. Maybe you did just throw a message together, or you didn't bother to get any feedback beforehand. Hey, if this is the case, give yourself some grace and determine to do things differently the next time. I'm curious, do you want more help with your preaching? Watch this next video about how to prepare a sermon in 7 steps.